Welcome to the Impact Nations podcast. My name is Tim. I am your host, and I hope you've been enjoying season 9, I think we're on. Incredible. Season 9, we've been doing the parables. I hope you've been enjoying it. We just had a couple of great episodes with Bradley Jerzak. If you haven't heard those, go back to the last couple of weeks, check those out. But for the month of December, going to change it up just a little bit. I think we may come back to the parables in the new year, but for December, we're going to take just a few minutes each week to tell a story about a life transformed. We're talking about the giving season. It is coming up on Christmas. We've got the Impact Nations gift catalog. The annual gift catalog is always jam-packed with amazing stories. But believe it or not, there's a bunch of stories that don't even make the grade. We can only fit so many into this catalog. So we've got some extras. So I'm going to be sitting here with Jordan each week, just hearing another story that didn't make the catalog and just reminding you of how powerful your gifts really are. So here we go. Story time with Jordan. Welcome back to a special episode, a short little episode of the Impact Nations podcast. We are on hiatus for a couple weeks here as we lead up to Christmas. We are going to have a very special series of nativity devotionals for you in the week leading up to Christmas. But for a few weeks before then, we're just sharing some really cool stories. So I'm sitting here today with Jordan. Jordan is our project manager at Impact Nations, and she's been just sharing some amazing stories with us here inside the office about what God's been doing with some folks around the world. We love sharing stories. We love sharing stories with you, our listeners, because many of you are giving very generously to help make these things happen. And so we want to be able to tell you a little bit about some of the lives that are being transformed as a result of your giving. So Jordan's here to tell us about yet another story. Welcome, Jordan.
Hey, Tim. Nice to be back.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
Absolutely.
This one is another story from Uganda, I think, and it's around skills and business development, which is a really big part of what we do here at Impact Nations, yeah?
Yeah. So this story really inspired me because of the amount of hope that comes out of this story and the amount of helping hands that created this success story. So as a young girl in Uganda, her name's Gabriella, and as a teenager, she's about 17 years old when she had to drop out of school. So she is from a small village outside of Kampala. Kampala, as you know, is the big city in Uganda. And she lived there with her parents and 5 siblings. And her parents, unfortunately, weren't making enough money for her to continue her education. So she made her way down to Kampala. Okay.
This is a fairly common problem there. It's twofold. One, they can't afford to pay her tuition because unlike here where public school is something that we kind of take for granted, but there are costs associated, significant costs associated with going to school. Yeah. But also, if she's in school, she's not earning for the family, and if the parents aren't earning enough, then she's not able to contribute. They need another person to contribute just to the bottom line for the family. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it was her big dream to make sure that all of her siblings, because she's the oldest in the family, so her big dream was that all of her siblings would get to continue their education to completion, because in Uganda, having an education is a big deal because, like you said, there's a cost associated with it. So the more education you have, the more opportunity that you get. So she started working for this family in Kampala as their housekeeper. But she wasn't making a whole lot of money at this point. She was making 50,000 shillings, which is about...
Sounds like a big number.
It sounds big.
Jordan, 50,000. I'd like to make 50,000 a month.
Well, not in shillings, because that comes down to about $14 a month.
I'm doing some quick math in my head. That tells me that's probably less than 50 cents a day she's making.
Yeah.
Not a good wage.
No. Not a good wage, and honestly, a wage that was just barely enough for her to survive.
Not really contributing to the family's bottom line economically at all.
Exactly. Yeah. But during this time, it was also during the time of the COVID pandemic, when this was going on, and it was in 2021, like the end of 2021. And a social worker had come to the home where she was working at, just to kind of do a welfare check.
Yeah.
And they found out that Gabriella was there working, And after talking to her, they found out that she had hopes and she had dreams, and she wanted to own a business, and she wanted to create enough money to send home to her family and get her siblings in school. And this social worker also happened to be connected with our team, the Remnant Generation.
Yeah.
So she was able to go back to the Remnant Generation and let them know, hey, there's this young girl, great candidate for the School of Purpose. And so in 2022, Gabriella started going to the School of Purpose. Now, this is interesting because most times if you're working, your employer is not going to let you also go to school.
Right.
But this particular family, they just really supported Gabriella, in her dreams. And they told her as long as she could continue doing her job, that she was free to go to school and that they would support her in that endeavor. And so they did. And she finished as a 2022 graduate. So now we know that at the end of her semester, each of the students go through internships and exposure visits.
Yeah, do you know what she was studying at School of Purpose? For those who are perhaps new to Impact Nation, School of Purpose is one of our many vocational schools. We've got skills and business vocational schools in 4 different nations. School of Purpose is our biggest one, actually. It's this year, I know, we've got around 1,000 graduates across like 4 different districts. It's a big school.
Oh, yeah.
But they teach a lot of different, each of our schools teaches different skills. Do you know what she was focused on?
Yeah, she was a tailoring student.
Okay.
So she was learning how to make clothes, bags, hem things, whatever you might need.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she went into an internship program. And from there, because she was just such an amazing student, she was great at her craft. Her trainers taught her very well. And she was retained for long-term employment, which ultimately resulted in her being able to make and save up enough money to get her own sewing machine.
Extraordinary. One of the things that we teach in our vocational schools is financial management, both personal and business financial management, so that students like Gabriella can learn to invest their earnings or save their earnings to work towards a dream, such as starting your own business. So it sounds like she really took that to heart.
Yeah, she definitely did. And not only is she working in the place where she was retained for long-term employment, but because she has her own sewing machine now, she is also doing like work on the side, starting to create her own small business. So she has both of those things going on, which is amazing because the money that she makes working her job, so working for someone else, is able to sustain her. And the money that she makes on the side from her own business, she's able to send home, and that is currently putting her siblings through school.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that overall this adds up to more than 50 cents a day.
Yes.
Significant
Quite a bit
turnaround.
more.
Yeah. That's amazing. So a couple things to take away from this. I mean, for starters, just because people lack opportunity does not mean that they lack dreams, visions, hopes. They've got an idea of what they want to do. Because these are things that God has placed in them inherently because they are image bearers. They were designed to flourish in this world. But again, they've been robbed of opportunity through varying circumstances. But when somebody recognizes that in them and calls it out and then has a path to opportunity, it's huge. One of the things that at Impact Nations we work really closely with our partners is to do this very intentional networking inside of their community, so that they're networking with local businesses, so that internships are possible like that, but even networking with social workers so that those who are out in the community recognizing people who are in need of an opportunity, they know exactly where to plug them into. So the School of Purpose, even more so now, we got a new building this last year, which made them even more prominent, more visible in the community, which means even more opportunity are coming their way in terms of getting more and more girls plugged into this program. I would say, by the way, if you've got young people in your life who have dreams and visions, find any way possible to champion that, to cheer them on, to lead them to opportunity, because who knows what they're going to do with it. It sounds like Gabriella took every opportunity that came her way and made the most of it. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
People can get behind stuff like this and help the next Gabriella succeed through I just happen to have the Impact Nations gift catalog with me. It's a fairly helpful tool for something like this, eh?
Yeah. It's very helpful.
We have a lot of pages. Which one should I turn to? Which is a good one to start at?
This story, I honestly was trying to categorize it, and it covers so many different just kind of parts of what we do. There's one place in there where they can purchase a sewing machine, which to give to a student like Gabriella would help them to create their own small business. There's another page in there, the sustainability page, where they can give a small loan.
Yeah.
Which also helps them to start.
Or even just cover the cost of a young person going to the vocational school for 8 months. I mean, you sometimes, we say, well, you'll hear this, God helps those who help themselves and stuff. And people say, well, people need to pay for this school. It's true. We want people to have a high level of buy-in. But when you've got a young lady who's making 50 cents a day, trying to actually be a contributor to her overall family's well-being and trying to get her younger siblings into school, requiring her to pay tuition for this school is not reasonable and would, necessarily exclude her from the opportunity. So by being able to effectively sponsor a student through giving the gift of education, giving the gift of skills and business training, you are completely changing the future for that young person plus future generations. I mean, even just the fact that she's taking what she learned, earning money with it, and giving that back to her family so that her younger siblings can get a formal education. The trickle-down effect is massive here.
Yeah, massive, and not just within her family. One of her bigger goals beyond just providing for her family is that when she's able to establish her business where she can work full-time just as a small business, her goal is to start employing other girls that are coming out of the School of Purpose. So it's just kind of this cycle of them helping each other. And
I love that. Yeah. And the School of Purpose, by the way, it started as a couple of small wooden shacks in the front yard of one of our women's shelters, and is now, as I say, it's over 1,000 students across multiple districts. The new building that we put in this year has actually 2 sewing classes, you pointed out to us earlier this year, because they've got kind of the more basic sewing machines that would be familiar to those who are in villages and stuff like where Gabriella comes from. But then once they graduate past that, they go up to the next floor. You've been there. I haven't been there yet since it got built, but they go up to the second floor where they've got the fancy electric machines that are designed, like those are the types of machines that are found in a large textile shop, making them that much more employable in the marketplace.
Yes. And the second floor sewing class is that's the goal for them.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's once they start, that's the goal is to get to the second floor sewing class.
I love that. Well, hey folks, if you're listening to this, you're inspired and you say, I want to help somebody get to the second floor and then go beyond that and start a career and start their own business and things like that. Hey, great place to start. impactnations.com/catalog. Read the stories, by the way. This was a story that you heard about this story when you were collecting different narratives for the catalog, because every single page has another story of a life transformed and then opportunities for you to participate in rescuing others in a similar fashion. And this one didn't even make the grade. Like if you like stories, check out the catalog because there's so many great stories of transformation.
And what else is exciting right now is if you give through the catalog, your donation will be doubled.
That's right. I forgot about that. We're in Double Your Impact right now. Give to the catalog, get your gift doubled. So, hey, you want to buy somebody a sewing machine to get their small business started? Guess what? You just bought 2 sewing machines. That's so cool. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot. That's fabulous. Folks, please, impactnations.com/catalog. Pray about it. How would the Lord lead you to get involved and help rescue a life like that? And we thank you so much. Please keep hanging around. Subscribe to the Impact Nations podcast. Hit the bell so you get the notifications. I think we're going to do this again next week. So thank you so much, Jordan, for spending time with us. And we'll see you all next week for one more story.